In November 2016, a single photograph surfaced that reignited a terrifying, decades-old nightmare in West Virginia. This chilling image sent immediate shockwaves through the quiet, tight-knit community of Point Pleasant. To understand the panic, we must go back to the night those glowing red eyes first opened. The year was 1966, and something monstrous began stalking the residents of this small river town. Local witnesses reported being followed by a winged entity that defied every known law of nature. This mysterious creature soon became a local legend, casting a long, dark shadow over the entire region. Deep within the overgrown TNT area, the air grew heavy with the feeling of being watched. People spoke in hushed tones about a massive silhouette lurking just beyond the reach of their headlights. It was not just a sighting, it was a persistent, predatory presence that refused to leave them alone. The most haunting detail reported by every terrified witness was the piercing, hypnotic glow of red eyes. These were not the eyes of any animal known to the rugged woods of West Virginia. For over a year, the Mothman held the town in a grip of pure, unadulterated psychological terror. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the creature seemed to vanish into the mists of history. Decades passed, and the legend became a dormant volcano, waiting for the perfect moment to erupt again. That moment arrived on November 20th, 2016, when a local man captured something impossible on camera. The photograph allegedly depicted the same winged figure that had terrorized the town so many years ago. Chillingly, this new sighting occurred almost 30 years too, the day after the original terror began. Could a creature from 1966 really still be out there, hiding in the shadows of the forest? The discovery left many wondering if the town's darkest legend had finally decided to come home. Could the winged shadow of the past be stalking a new generation of unsuspecting witnesses? To find the truth, we must travel to the town that became the epicenter of the unexplained. Welcome to Point Pleasant, a quiet corner of West Virginia where time seems to move a little slower. This modest town is exactly what it sounds like. A peaceful, free square mile slice of pure Americana. Nestled along the banks of the Ohio River, the community thrives on its small-town charm and quiet streets. With just over 4,000 residents, everyone knows their neighbors and the rhythmic pulse of local life. How does a town this small hold a secret this large and terrifying within its borders? Is it possible for mere geography to invite the paranormal into the lives of unsuspecting people? For decades, Point Pleasant was a quiet stage where a horror movie was filmed without the actor's consent. The Ohio River bisects the land, acting as a shimmering boundary between the ordinary and the unknown. On the surface, the town was a portrait of tranquility, far removed from the chaos of modern cities. But beneath this calm exterior, an unsettling energy began to gather like a coming storm in 1966. Local legends often whisper that some places act as magnets for things that don't belong here. Point Pleasant was about to become a cage for a nightmare that defies every law of nature. Residents went about their daily lives, unaware that their small-town reality was about to be shattered forever. The 3-square-mile area offered no escape once the red-eyed shadow decided to descend upon the valley. Even the steady flow of the Ohio River couldn't wash away the growing sense of impending dread. People began to look at the familiar landscapes of West Virginia with a new, chilling sense of suspicion. Every shadow in the woods seemed to stretch longer, hiding secrets that the town wasn't prepared to face. The quaintness of the town stood in stark contrast to the bizarre sightings that would soon follow. No one expected that their peaceful riverside home would soon be synonymous with the legendary moth. The peace didn't last, ending abruptly in a cemetery under the cover of a cold November sky. The timeline of terror begins here, where the ordinary world suddenly collides with the inexplicable. On November 12, 1966, 5 men were working hard in a local cemetery near Quaint. These gravediggers were focused on their somber task when the quiet West Virginia air turned cold. Would you stay in a graveyard if something man-sized suddenly flew directly over your head? Without warning, a massive, winged shape emerged from the trees and swooped low above the workers. It was not a bird or a plane, but something far more unsettling and humanoid in appearance. The men stood frozen, watching the creature for about 1 full minute as it glided through the air. The creature swooped like a nightmare coming to life, defying every law of nature they ever knew. In that terrifying minute, the peace of the Clendenine woods was shattered by this impossible sight. They struggled to describe the winged silhouette that had just violated the sanctity of the graveyard. But this first encounter near Clendenine was only the beginning of a much larger, darker mystery. As unsettling as a swooping figure is, what happened 2 nights later was far more personal. On November 14, 1966, the mystery moved from the cemetery to a quiet field in Salem. Newell Partridge was at home when a strange disruption outside caught his immediate and wary attention. Looking out into the darkness, he reported seeing two glowing red objects hovering in a nearby field. What do you do when the heavy darkness stares back at you with glowing red eyes? These were no ordinary lights, pulsing with an unnatural intensity that defied any logical explanation. Partridge realized the objects were actually eyes belonging to a tall, dark figure standing perfectly still. This shadow was perched ominously on a tree branch, just 100 meters away from him. The figure remained motionless, its gaze fixed on the house, while the night air grew deathly silent. The sheer height of the creature made it clear this was no man or common animal. Under the dim moonlight, the silhouette of the creature began to take a terrifyingly concrete shape. Partridge could feel the weight of those red eyes watching him from the edge of the woods. This sighting solidified the fear that something ancient and predatory had arrived in West Virginia. These chilling reports from across the region soon reached the terrified residents of Point Pleasant. The legendary Mothman was no longer a myth, but a looming shadow over the entire state. This wasn't just another sighting. For one resident, it quickly became a terrifying and personal abduction. Newell Partridge didn't just witness the creature. He lost something irreplaceable to its looming, dark shadow. His dog, Bandit, was a brave German shepherd, a loyal breed, not known for backing down from danger. On a cold night in West Virginia, the ordinary peace of the Partridge home was suddenly shattered. Outside on the property, Bandit began barking frantically at a strange figure lurking just beyond the lights. Newell stepped out into the darkness, shining his flashlight toward the edge of the silent, wooded yard. Two massive, glowing red eyes stared back, reflecting the light with a primal and unsettling intensity. These were the same hypnotic eyes that had already begun to haunt the residents of Point Pleasant. Without a moment's hesitation, the courageous guard dog charged into the shadows to protect his master. Bandit disappeared into the blackness of the trees, his barking echoing through the damp, cold night air. Newell called out for his companion, but the woods suddenly fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. The German shepherd, usually so obedient, did not return when his name was shouted into the dark. Partridge searched the property frantically, but his loyal friend was nowhere to be seen in the shadows. The creature and the dog had vanished completely, leaving behind nothing but a chilling sense of dread. What could be so terrifying that a trained dog would vanish instantly into the West Virginia night? Bandit chasing the entity was like a moth being drawn toward a lethal and unforgiving flame. His disappearance proved the Mothman was not just a ghost, but a physical threat to everyone nearby. If the monster could take a powerful dog like Bandit, who would be its next victim? The town's fear deepened as people realized that no one and nothing was truly safe anymore. Bandit was never seen again, but the creature was just getting started with the residents of Point Pleasant. On November 15th, 1966, the legend moved from the shadows to the road for two young couples. Roger and Linda Scarberry joined Steve and Mary Mallett for a late-night drive through West Virginia. Their car drifted toward the TNT area, the decaying remains of a World War II explosives plant. The darkness around Point Pleasant felt heavier that night as they approached the abandoned generator plant. Suddenly, two glowing red orbs pierced through the gloom near the old gates of the facility. Standing before them was a massive, 7-foot-old gray figure that defied every law of nature. This terrifying entity possessed large wings that remained tightly folded against its powerful, muscular back. Nearby, the lifeless remains of a dog carcass lay discarded on the cold, gravelly road. Panic surged through the vehicle as Roger slammed the gears into reverse to escape the nightmare. As the Chevy turned, the winged phantom leaped into the air with an impossible, sudden grace. Imagine flooring your accelerator until the needle hits 100 miles per hour in total desperation. Roger pushed the car to its absolute limit, yet the creature stayed right outside their window. Surprisingly, the monster's massive wings didn't even flap as it glided effortlessly alongside the speeding car. What kind of biological creature has wings that don't flap at 100 miles per hour? The heavy gray body seemed to ignore the laws of physics as it paced the roaring vehicle. Their car was like a toy being toyed with by a giant, supernatural bird of prey. From the darkness came a high-pitched screech that tore through the sound of the racing engine. That piercing scream echoed in their ears, a sound unlike any animal known to West Virginia. How do you escape a predator that can easily outrun a car pushed to its breaking point? The passengers huddled together in terror while the gray shadow loomed over the roof of the vehicle. As they neared the city limits of Point Pleasant, the winged pursuer finally vanished into the night. Trembling with fear, the four witnesses rushed directly to the Mason County Sheriff's Office for help. They desperately recounted their harrowing ordeal to the stunned officers who struggled to believe the story. The couples fled to the sheriff, but the screech of that chase would haunt them forever. This encounter would mark the true beginning of the Mothman's terrifying reign over the small town. The authorities in West Virginia had to say something before the growing panic consumed Point Pleasant. On the afternoon of November 16th, a formal press conference addressed the chilling Scarberry and Mallet sighting. While the town held its collective breath, officials desperately searched for a logical answer to the terror. Expert wildlife biologist Dr. Robert Smith stepped forward with a theory that seemed almost too simple. He suggested the terrifying creature was merely an abnormally large crane blown far off its migration route. This specific bird, the sandhill crane, became the official explanation for the red-eyed monster in the woods. Dr. Smith argued that the creature's massive wings and glowing eyes were just natural features of wildlife. For the weary residents, this scientific explanation felt like trying to extinguish a massive fire with a teacup. But while the experts were busy identifying birds, the creature was preparing for its next terrifying visit. The very same evening, the peace of the Thomas property was shattered by a presence from the shadows. Raymond Walmsley and Marcella Bennett arrived at the house, never expecting the nightmare waiting in the dark. Little Tina clung to her mother as the familiar landscape of West Virginia suddenly felt cold and alien. The group froze in terror as they realized the winged visitor from the woods had found them. This wasn't a misplaced bird, it was a looming figure that defied every rule of the natural world. Panicked, the witnesses scrambled toward the safety of the house as the creature began its silent pursuit. Marcella Bennett watched in horror as the massive entity followed them right to the threshold of the home. The heavy silence of the night was broken only by the sound of their own frantic, Racine Hertz. Inside the house, the walls offered little comfort against the supernatural predator lurking just outside the door. Then came the moment that would haunt Marcella for the rest of her long and troubled life. The creature rose up and peered through the windows, its glowing red eyes burning into the room. It stood there like a silent sentinel, watching the terrified family with an unblinking and predatory gaze. No sandhill crane would ever stalk a family to their front door and stare through the glass. The official wildlife theories crumbled as the reality of the Mothman became impossible for anyone to ignore. Point Pleasant was no longer just a quiet town. It was now the hunting ground of something ancient. As the sightings escalated, every terrifying road led back to one specific and desolate location nearby. This wasn't just a random haunt. Every road led back to a specific, desolate location. To find the Mothman's home, you must enter the TNT area, a massive wasteland of buried secrets. Hidden within the forest, this 2,500-acre expanse served as a grim reminder of a wartime past. During World War II, the military built concrete igloos here to store massive amounts of ammunition. Today, it remains a scar on the landscape, a perfect hiding spot for things that avoid light. Dozens of concrete igloos rise from the earth, their heavy steel doors rusting in the damp air. These bunkers once held enough ammunition to fuel a global conflict, but now they sit empty. Or so they seemed, until a strange winged visitor decided to claim them as its own. Why would a creature choose an abandoned ammunition dump as its private, dark lair? Perhaps the isolation offered a sanctuary from the prying eyes of the Point Pleasant residents. The TNT area is directly adjacent to the sprawling McClintock Wildlife Station, adding to the mystery. Dense woods and stagnant ponds surround the bunkers, creating a labyrinth of thick, tangled brush. This vast wilderness provided the perfect camouflage for a predator of such massive proportions. What else is hidden inside those concrete igloos, locked away from the reach of the sun? Walking through these woods feels like stepping into a cold, industrial world that time forgot. The air hangs heavy with the scent of damp earth and the metallic temps of old machinery. It was here that the Scarberries first encountered the red-eyed beast in the dead of night. While some suggested a sandhill crane lived here, the witnesses knew they saw something far worse. The industrial ruins offered a terrifying backdrop for the legend that would soon consume West Virginia. Even now, explorers report an eerie silence that falls over the bunkers as evening approaches. Every shadow seems to stretch longer, hiding the secrets of a creature that belongs to the night. But this lair would soon be associated with a much larger tragedy than anyone could have predicted. To understand the terror, one must look deep into the heart of West Virginia's wilderness. The McClintock Wildlife Station spans over 2,500 acres of dense, tangled woodland and brush. This massive preserve sits adjacent to a site with a far darker, industrial history. Hidden within the trees lies the infamous TNT area, a relic of a bygone era. During World War II, this desolate landscape hummed with the dangerous business of manufacturing explosives. Today, the most striking features are the eerie concrete igloos scattered throughout the overgrown property. These rounded structures served as heavily fortified bunkers, designed for storing massive amounts of ammunition. Each concrete dome remains a silent witness to the area's secretive and volatile military past. The thick walls were built to withstand blasts, creating a heavy, unnatural silence in the woods. Nature has slowly reclaimed the site, weaving vines around rusting steel doors and weathered stone. This isolation provides a perfect, shadowed sanctuary for something that wishes to remain unseen. Visitors often report an oppressive vibe hanging over the fields of the McClintock Wildlife Station. It is a place where the line between natural beauty and industrial decay feels blurred. The sprawling landscape offers endless hiding spots within its 2,500 acres of remote terrain. Every crumbling igloo and abandoned road adds to the growing sense of unease for travelers. This unique environment likely contributed to the physical evidence and sightings reported by terrified witnesses. The concrete structures created a labyrinth of shadows perfectly suited for a creature like the Mothman. For many, the TNT area is more than just a ruin. It is a gateway to mystery. The combination of heavy history and wild growth makes the McClintock Station an unsettling place. This desolate setting provided the chilling backdrop for a year of unparalleled fear in Point Pleasant. The year of sightings reached a devastating conclusion that changed Point Pleasant forever. In November 1967, the ordinary lives of residents were interrupted by a sudden, horrific tragedy. The Silver River Bridge collapsed into the water, claiming 46 lives in just seconds. Suddenly, the mysterious man-bird wasn't just a monster anymore. It was seen as a warning. Many began to believe the creature was actually a dark harbinger sent to herald disaster. Was the Mothman the cause of the collapse? Or was it trying to tell them? How do you distinguish between a terrifying predator and a silent, winged messenger of death? The Mothman was like a dark cloud drifting silently before a massive, destructive storm. A dark cloud doesn't cause the rain, but it is always there first. For a full year, the creature had haunted the TNT area and the local roads. Now, the community faced a loss so profound that the paranormal felt secondary. This transition from paranormal mystery to historical tragedy left a permanent scar on West Virginia. Residents remembered the sightings starting exactly 1 year prior to this very day. They wondered if the red-eyed figure had been trying to scream a warning. Was it possible that the creature's presence was a desperate signal of impending doom? The silence that followed the collapse was heavy with both grief and deep mystery. After the collapse, the sightings stopped, leaving only questions in the winter air. The debate over what people actually saw was only just beginning in Point Pleasant. The legacy of the Mothman would forever be tied to those 46 lost lives. Beneath the murky water, the ruins of the bridge held secrets that still linger today. Could a messenger of death have truly predicted such a massive and sudden catastrophe? The tragedy ensured the legend of the Mothman would never be forgotten in West Virginia. Some locals still claim they see shadows lurking near the river when the fog rolls in. The connection between the sightings and the bridge collapse remains a chilling, unsolved mystery. Whatever the truth, the name of the Mothman is now synonymous with that tragic day. We have to ask the skeptical question that haunts every paranormal investigation in West Virginia. Is it possible that thousands of people were collectively terrified by nothing more than a bird? After the Silver Bridge fell, researchers began looking for logical explanations for the Mothman sightings. They needed a biological match for a creature with massive wings and glowing red eyes. One theory pointed directly at the sandhill crane, a bird that occasionally visits the Ohio Valley. This tall, prehistoric-looking bird often startles those who aren't familiar with its impressive, large stature. Experts suggest that a sandhill crane averages a height of around 4 feet in the wild. However, some of these avian giants can grow up to 6 feet tall when fully mature. Imagine stumbling upon a 6-foot bird in the dense shadows of the overgrown TNT area. To a panicked witness, a large bird could easily be mistaken for a towering, humanoid figure. But height isn't the only characteristic that matches the descriptions given by the people of Point Pleasant. Sandhill cranes possess shocks of bright red feathers that circle their eyes like a crimson mask. In the beam of a flashlight, these feathers might look like the glowing eyes witnesses described. Skeptics argue that fear can distort human perception, turning a bird into a legendary monster. If the crane theory doesn't fit every detail, investigators have another biological suspect to consider. Local owls are known to exhibit intense eye shine when a light source is pointed toward them. This biological reflection can make an owl's eyes appear like two burning red orbs in the night. Could an owl's eye shine really be mistaken for the 100-mile-per-hour glowing red orbs of the Mothman? Critics of the bird theory point out that the Mothman was described as 7 feet tall. Does a 4-foot crane truly look like a massive, muscular man when viewed from a distance? Comparing the Mothman to a common crane is like comparing a high-tech fighter jet to a paper plane. Eyewitnesses insisted the creature they saw was far more imposing than any known animal in West Virginia. They described a being that could keep pace with a car traveling at incredible highway speeds. No owl or crane has ever been recorded flying with such power and terrifying, unnatural velocity. Dr. Robert Smith's theory remains a cornerstone for those who prefer a grounded, scientific explanation. Yet, many residents who came face to face with the creature feel these bird theories are deeply insulting. They saw something that defied the laws of biology and the limitations of the natural world. The mystery of Point Pleasant remains unsolved because the physical evidence refuses to fit a simple box. We are left to wonder if the truth is buried in biology or something much darker. But biological birds don't usually come with telepathic visitors like Indrid Cold from other worlds. Skeptics often point to the natural world to explain away the terror haunting West Virginia's dark woods. They argue that simple biological reactions could account for the sightings reported throughout Point Pleasant. One common theory suggests that witnesses were merely seeing the common phenomenon known as eye shine. Many nocturnal creatures, like owls, exhibit this eerie reflection when a light source hits their eyes. This biological quirk can turn a mundane bird into a glowing-eyed monster in the dead of night. If a flashlight or headlight catches an owl just right, the result is an unsettling, luminous glow. Beyond eye shine, researchers look to the sandhill crane as a likely candidate for the moth. These large birds possess distinct shocks of bright red feathers surrounding their large, staring eyes. From a distance, those vibrant patches could easily be mistaken for something far more sinister and unnatural. Yet, the specific details provided by eyewitnesses often defy these convenient, natural explanations provided by skeptics. On November 14, 1966, a man named Newell Partridge experienced an encounter that challenged every biological theory. While in Salem, Partridge reported seeing 2 mysterious red objects hovering silently within a nearby field. These weren't fleeting reflections, but steady, glowing orbs that seemed to hold their own internal light. Partridge watched in disbelief as the objects remained fixed, staring back at him from the darkness. He eventually identified these glowing red objects as the eyes belonging to a massive, dark figure. This tall, shadowy entity was perched ominously upon a tree branch roughly 100 meters away. The sheer distance and lack of external light make the owl's eye shine theory feel remarkably insufficient. Unlike a crane's feathers, these eyes appeared to generate their own light, rather than reflecting it. Partridge's account suggests something far more predatory than a misplaced bird or a simple trick of light. The discrepancy between the skeptic's eye shine and these glowing red objects remains a core mystery. While science offers birds and feathers, the people of West Virginia remember something much more haunting. As we look closer at the evidence, the gap between nature and the Mothman only seems to widen. The story takes a bizarre turn as we leave the dark woods for the open highway. While some reported a winged beast, others encountered something even more unsettling on the lonely road. On a quiet night near Point Pleasant, a sewing machine salesman named Woodrow Deerenberger began his journey. He was driving along I-77 when a strange, metallic craft suddenly forced his vehicle to a stop. From the craft emerged a figure that looked remarkably human, yet felt entirely out of this world. This mysterious visitor approached the car, but he didn't look like any neighbor Woodrow had ever met. The man wore a dark suit and displayed a wide, fixed expression that earned him a chilling nickname. History remembers this figure as Indrid Cold, the grinning man whose smile never seemed to reach his eyes. As he stood by the car, Woodrow realized the stranger wasn't actually speaking with his physical mouth. Instead, a calm voice vibrated directly inside Woodrow's mind, conveying messages through a terrifying form of telepathy. Indrid Cold assured the frightened salesman that he meant no harm and simply wished to communicate his presence. This eerie telepathic meeting near Point Pleasant remains one of the most famous encounters in paranormal history. While the Mothman terrorized the TNT area, the grinning man was stalking the outskirts of the town. Many began to wonder if these two entities were somehow connected in a larger, supernatural web of events. Is it a coincidence that UFO sightings and the Mothman happened at the exact same time in West Virginia? Skeptics struggle to explain how a simple sewing machine salesman could invent such a detailed, haunting encounter. Woodrow's life was forever changed as he became a central figure in the mystery of the grinning visitor. Indrid Cold was like the unpredictable neighbor in an already strange neighborhood of winged monsters and shadows. The telepathic messages felt invasive and cold, leaving Woodrow with more questions than he could ever answer. Some believe the grinning man was an extraterrestrial traveler, observing the chaos unfolding in West Virginia. Others suspect he was a harbinger of doom, much like the Mothman seen near the Silver Bridge. The connection between these two entities creates a complex tapestry of high strangeness that defies simple logic. Every road in Point Pleasant seemed to lead back to something inexplicable during that terrifying year of sightings. Whether he was a cryptid, an alien, or a ghost, the Mothman left a permanent mark on Point Pleasant. While the Mothman terrorized the night, another stranger was waiting along the dark West Virginia highways. A humbled sewing machine salesman named Woodrow Derenberger would soon encounter something far more human yet stranger. Driving along Interstate 77 near Point Pleasant, Woodrow watched as a strange vehicle suddenly blocked his path. From this craft stepped a man whose appearance was both perfectly normal and deeply unsettling to behold. This mysterious figure did not resemble the winged beast haunting the local TNT area at all. He introduced himself to the startled salesman as Indrid Cold, a name now etched in paranormal history. History remembers him by another, more chilling title that reflects his most distinctive and eerie feature. Witnesses and researchers often refer to this bizarre figure simply as the infamous grinning man. He wore a wide, frozen smile that seemed completely disconnected from any sense of human warmth. When the stranger spoke, he did not use his mouth to form any audible words or sounds. Woodrow claimed that Indrid Cold communicated entirely through a telepathic connection directly into his own mind. These silent thoughts were clear and precise, bridging the gap between a salesman and an unknown visitor. This encounter added a layer of high strangeness that pushed the legend beyond a simple monster sighting. While the Mothman felt like a primal beast, Indrid Cold represented a more calculated, intelligent mystery. Paranormal enthusiasts wonder if these two entities were working together or merely haunting the same ground. For Woodrow Derenberger, the meeting on I-77 changed his perception of reality and the world around him. The grinning man stood tall, often described wearing a strange, metallic suit that shimmered under highway lights. There was an uncanny quality to his presence that made the salesman feel both calm and terrified. After their brief and silent conversation, the mysterious figure in his craft vanished back into the night. The story of Indrid Cold remains one of the most debated chapters of the West Virginia sightings. Was he an alien visitor, a time traveler, or something even more difficult for us to comprehend? In the chaos of 1966, Point Pleasant became a crossroads for every kind of inexplicable phenomenon imaginable. The winged creature brought fear, but the grinning man brought a chilling, telepathic sense of observation. His presence proved that the darkness over West Virginia held more than just a single winged predator. Even today, the wide smile of Indrid Cold continues to haunt the lore of the Silver Bridge. Now, we come full circle to the question that has haunted Point Pleasant for many decades. We have spent decades calling this a legend, yet the shadows in the TNT area remain unexplained. Is the Mothman a simple case of mistaken identity, or something far more terrifying and real? Some researchers insist the Sandhill Crane explains every sighting during that cold winter in West Virginia. They argue that fear and darkness transformed a mundane bird into a winged monster of nightmare proportions. But for those who looked into those glowing red eyes, a biological explanation feels hollow and insufficient. Could a mere hoax sustain such a profound legacy of fear across so many different generations? Skeptics point to the lack of physical evidence, yet the collective memory of the town remains unshaken. While Indrid Cold left behind only chilling smiles, the Mothman left a scar on the community's soul. If you saw this creature in your own backyard, would you believe your eyes or the skeptics? The debate between logic and the paranormal often feels like a puzzle with several missing pieces. Just as the mystery seemed destined for history books, a new piece of evidence suddenly emerged. On November 20th, 2016, a single photograph suggested that the ancient legend had never truly left. This startling image was captured near Point Pleasant, allegedly depicting the creature in midair above the trees. The timing of this new sighting sent shockwaves through the community and reignited the global investigation. Crucially, this photograph was taken almost 30 years to the day after the very first sightings began. Does this strange 30-year cycle hint at a pattern we are only just beginning to understand? This 2016 photo acts as the missing piece of a puzzle we previously thought was finished. If the image is genuine, it proves the entity still calls the West Virginia wilderness its home. The sightings of the 60s might be history, but the mystery is very much alive today. Every year, thousands visit West Virginia to celebrate a creature they hope they never actually encounter. They walk the same streets where the grinning man once stood, looking for answers in the dark. Whether the Mothman is a bird, a ghost, or an omen remains a matter of personal belief. Yet the consistency of the reports over several decades suggests something is hiding in those woods. We are left to wonder if the 2016 sighting is the end or just another beginning. The evidence is finally on the table for you to judge this enduring mystery for yourself. Was it truly a nightmare in the flesh, or just a massive misidentification of local wildlife? Skeptics point to the sandhill crane, a massive bird with a distinct and haunting red mask. Could the darkness of the West Virginia woods turn a bird into a terrifying supernatural monster? Some suggest the Mothman was nothing more than a town hoax that spiraled out of control. Yet, can a simple prank account for the genuine terror scene and so many witness eyes? Perhaps the answer lies hidden deep within the abandoned bunkers of the cursed TNT area. Many believe the creature was a herald of doom appearing before the Silver Bridge disaster. Does the Mothman still watch from the shadows, waiting for the next great tragedy to strike? We must also consider the bizarre encounters with Indrid Cold and the mysterious grinning man. Were these visitors from another world or figments of a town's collective and fevered imagination? Every witness account adds another layer to a story that refuses to be forgotten or solved. Was Bandit the dog just the first victim of something we still do not fully understand? Point Pleasant remains the center of a legend that has captivated the world. For 60 years, the story of the Mothman is a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and the haunting unknown. What you see in that reflection says more about you than it does about the creature. Is it a bird, a hoax, or a visitor that only appears before a major catastrophe? The sightings of the 60s may be history, but the legend continues to grow every year. Will you be looking at the sky next November, searching for those glowing and red eyes? The mystery belongs to you now. So tell us what you believe haunts West Virginia's hills. Is the red-eyed stalker of Point Pleasant a physical reality or a ghost of our history? We may never know the truth, but the legend will endure as long as shadows fall.